Everything negative, pressure, challenges, it's all just an opportunity for us to rise. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Athletes Podcast sponsored by Sports for Champions. Delighted to have Jamell Anderson here today with us. How are you, Jamell?
I'm great, thanks. And yourself?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Absolutely amazing to talk to another basketball star based in the UK. If we could start, how did you first get into basketball?
My first introduction to basketball was Space Jam.
Wow.
Still one of my all-time favourite movies.
Classic.
And yeah, after that I got a hoop put in the back garden. And I've loved basketball ever since, really.
That makes sense. And was it something that was popular amongst your peers at that time, or is it fairly sort of far out there, something that happens in America kind of thing?
Yeah, even my perception of it when I first started was you had to be 6'7" and you had to be American. So growing up in England, I played football, rugby, athletics. So even then, when I first started, I didn't continue. I just played in the back garden until I pretty much got bored of it, I guess, and then carried on playing football and athletics. It wasn't until year 8 in secondary school that I actually saw tryouts for a basketball team. I thought, yeah, I'd like to give that a go. It's been a long time since I played, and I fell in love with it again.
Were you always sporty growing up?
Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah. I used to watch my mum do athletics, so I'd be on the sidelines watching her do 800 metres and stuff, so I've always loved sport. I thought I was going to be an 800 metre runner or a cross-country runner, but yeah, basketball stole me.
Were you running to a high level when you were in school?
County. I was running for Nottingham. I was the fastest runner in Nottingham for my age, so I was doing okay, but yeah. Basketball.
Yeah, so it takes over. You do see it with a lot of athletes. Somebody is pretty topical, and as we're in Wales, Gareth Bale, who retired recently, he was a cross-country runner as a kid. And you kind of see how that sort of impacted his playing style. Do you think that's something that happened for you?
100%. Like, when I first started playing basketball, I was always fitter than most people, and I definitely attribute that to the athletics that I was doing. For someone that was quite tall and quite skinny, I was fast and I could go for a long time. So yeah, that really helped my basketball at the beginning when I didn't have any skill.
It must be one of the most exhausting sports. Like, my basketball experience is fairly limited, but not so long ago I played a game of one-on-one against my mate who plays quite a lot.
Yeah.
I really struggled, and I play football like I'm not the worst.
Right.
I've not got awful fitness, but I found it just absolutely exhausting. I don't know what it is. Is it the turning or?
I think it's everything. I think the fact that, a game 40 minutes long, there's not really much stoppage, and yeah, you're sprinting, but you're also running for a long time. You're reacting, you're jumping, you're pushing away from people. Yeah, there's just a lot of different muscles that are being used in that game. So yeah, it can be really tiring.
It must be one of the most end-to-end sports in the world, because they say football's fairly end-to-end, and it can be, and then on the other end of the spectrum you've got American football, which is so stop and start. But I think you'd think it would lend itself to being more popular because it is so end-to-end and high scoring. Why do you think that it's sort of taken quite a long time to catch on in the UK?
It's a big question. I think, to be honest with you, for a lot of people that get involved and they take it past school or playing in the back garden like I did, you do fall in love with it because of what you just said. It's very end to end. There's a lot of just going, like, there's not a lot of time where you're just kind of standing around. You're always involved. So I think kids love that, adults love that. It's just getting past that stage of playing in the back garden, you know what I mean, or doing a lesson at school. It's getting them past that stage where they go to a club and they start playing regularly. Yeah, so it's getting there. I know that the Basketball England Federation are doing a lot to kind of get kids past that stage of just starting.
Because you do see a lot more kids now playing in the local parks and stuff like that. There's hoops everywhere. It is improving. What was the attitude around basketball when you did finally start playing in year 8 in school?
We were the basketball kids. There was probably 9 of us, I think. We didn't even have enough for 12. And we were the only kids that played basketball in school, and that was just the norm. And you kind of ran with that title. And I think you probably see that in a lot of schools around the UK at this point. It's like you either play basketball or you don't. There's not really many in-betweeners. But yeah, we did really well. We won a few trophies at school, so it kind of propelled us to keep playing after we finished.
Pardon the pun, but were you sort of head and shoulders from an early age?
Yeah, I guess so. I think I had a really big growth period when I was about 15, 16. Literally, you know, as you do, you mark it on the doors at home. And yeah, mine was insane. I grew to like 6'3" in like a summer. It was stupid.
Wow.
So yeah, I was definitely quite tall.
So did that change the position that you were playing most of the time? Because obviously you've got a totally different skill set then.
I mean, fortunately, one of those things for basketball, especially for kids, is there's not really positions when you're kids. I mean, okay, you're going to find the one kid who's way taller than everyone else, so you might put him nearer the hoop. And we call that a power forward or a centre. But when you're young, you want them to play every position, because although he might be tall when he's 15, he gets to 18, like I did, and everyone else is the same height as you, you're not the big guy anymore. So you need to understand all the skills of the smaller players as well. So yeah, it's a good thing about basketball is that everyone can play in every position, especially at a young age.
That's brilliant. So can you talk us through a little bit about how you were kind of picked up at school? Did someone recognise your talent fairly early on?
Yeah, so we had a tournament at the Wildcats Arena in Nottingham, and there was a coach called Curtis Xavier, quite intimidating looking guy, called me over. I'll never forget how intimidating he was, because he was like, "Oh, what's your name?" And I was like, "Jamell." And he was like, "How old are you?" And I was like, and I remember him kind of saying to me, like, "Why are you saying like, do you not know how old you are?" I was just so nervous. But yeah, he recruited me then. I think he gave me like a form to take home to my mum. She filled it out, gave it back, and that's when I first started playing at club level.
So that was Nottingham Youth?
That was the Nottingham Youth Basketball Club, yeah.
Okay, how was that? How was the level when you first got yourself in there?
Yeah, tough. Those kids had already been playing. You know, they already had the title of the basketball kids. I was still quite fresh to basketball, really. Just played school level. So yeah, but very welcoming, which is something you will find in basketball in the UK. Whatever club you go to, it's just the nature of basketball in this country. It is really welcoming, open arms. You know, there's no like, "Oh, you're the new guy, you know, I'm not going to pass you the ball," or that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was really good, really, really good.
I think you played sort of, you weren't playing that long there before you actually got picked up by Team GB.
Yeah.
Obviously huge at such a young age. Can you tell us how old you were and sort of how that came about?
Yeah, so I started with Curtis when I was around 15, I think. And I got picked up for GB when I was 19. 18, 19. Yeah, we got sent down to a trial. And I don't think any of us really expected to make the team. We were playing like Division 3 basketball at that point, and we hadn't really got out much for trials with England teams or GB teams or anything. And I got selected, man. Like, and I still to this day, I'm like amazed at how that happened. But yeah, the coach saw something in me, and yeah, it's changed my life ever since.
What do you remember much about the trial? Have you any ideas what it was?
So, 100 maybe kids in one huge 4-court sports hall in Birmingham. Just, you felt this small because there was just so many different heights and levels and abilities. Yeah, just being kind of excited and just enjoying the moment. Like I said at the beginning, when I saw all the kids, I was a little bit overwhelmed, but eventually I just thought, well, I'm not expecting to make this team anyway, so I may as well just enjoy it for what it is. And yeah, got selected. It's crazy.
Amazing. And then obviously joining up with Team GB gives you lots of opportunities to play abroad. Presumably it gives you access to a completely different talent pool, and the level again changes. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, just, man, like, I remember when we first went to, I think it was Montenegro, and I'm sat in the hotel room just thinking to myself, like, a few months ago I was playing Division 3 in Nottingham, and now I'm in Montenegro representing GB. How did this happen? Like, I was too young to comprehend that things like that could happen. So yeah, just a crazy experience, man. Like, just seeing the best players of my age in Europe and expecting to go on the floor and compete against them. Thankfully, I was on a really good GB team at the time, some really good high-level players, and I learned so much. And when I came back, my confidence levels was through the roof.
Are you a competitive person?
Yes, not to the point where it would be the detriment of a relationship between me and someone, or cause an issue with someone. But I want to win, and ever since I was a kid, I've kind of given it my all to be successful. So I do consider myself competitive.
Were you competitive? So obviously going into Team GB, being fairly new to it all, did you still have that competitive edge when you were playing internationally, or was it did you feel a little bit overwhelmed at that stage?
So you know what, it's such a good question, because as much as I was competitive, I never had the confidence to kind of take that competitive edge into a situation like that. Like once I was there, I kind of put myself on, like, I put a limit on myself. I was like, okay, I've made this team, which is crazy, but I never thought like, oh, well, maybe I could be in the starting 5, or maybe I could be the top scorer of this team. I just kind of felt like I was just happy to have been invited, and almost like imposter syndrome. It wasn't until later on in my career when I learned that, like, whatever situation you're in, you've kind of got to go for it and like try and achieve more, even though you've achieved so much to get there.
Yeah, I think it's something that you have to build up step by step. It's not something that just instantly happens, that confidence. Can you tell us a little bit about how Team GB works? Because I know that Team GB it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a pro contract, which is obviously, that's the holy grail if you want to keep doing it. Can you tell us a bit about that setup and how it works?
So back then it was the under 20s GB. We met up, I think, maybe twice a year for camp or for Eurobasket. So yeah, you'd see the team, you'd hope to make the final 12 each time, because every time you go, there's there could be 24 people that get invited, and you're trying to make the final 12. So in a sense, there was that competitive edge to make that team. But yeah, I did that for 2 years. The second year, we went to Austria, and we did really well, very close to making the final. And then at the end of that, you're kind of like, right, well, what now? Fortunately for me, that summer I got picked up by a BBL team off the back of GB, and that was the beginning of my professional career.
How does that work? Is that so a scout comes to see you play and then you get a phone call, or do you get an email? How does that play out?
It was a phone call. I was actually literally packing for Spain. I was going to go to an academy in Spain called the BBL Basketball Academy. I was all set to go. I don't know if I'd signed anything yet, but I was pretty close. And I got a call from the coach of the BBL team, and he said, I heard that you're thinking about going to BBL Basketball Academy. He's like, I've worked there before. I think that you should go pro. I think that would be a better option for you based on what I know about the academy. I sat down, talked about it with my mum, and I just went for it.
So does that mean move house, move life, everything?
Yeah. 19 years old, went to Essex, just like, may as well have been 16 years old in terms of life experience, and just kind of throw myself in the deep end, and it was the best thing for me, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those sink or swim moments, isn't it? And how did you feel you adapted to living on your own for a start? It must have been big. Yeah,
a lot of excitement, obviously, living under my mum's roof. God bless her, she's been amazing, don't get me wrong, but at 19 to be told, like, okay, because we stayed in a hotel as well, to be like, all right, this is your room, see you later. Like, this is where you go and eat down the hall, and okay, make sure you're at practice at this time. I was just like, this is crazy, you know what I mean? So yeah, loved it. There were loads of down moments, some real down moments, to be honest, but it made me who I am today. So yeah, I'm really thankful.
I know that there's different leagues, and to be honest, I'm not 100% sure how they all work together, but I know that sort of within Europe there is overseas tournaments and things like that. They almost have like a version of the Champions League. I think, is it called the Champions League?
It's called Euro Cup, and there is Champions League as well.
So can you tell us a bit about your first sort of experience? I know you went through a few different pro contracts and things like that, but can you tell us a bit about those leagues?
Yeah, I don't know what year it was, but the first one I did was Leicester Riders. We qualified for the Euro Cup, and I think because you qualified for Euro Cup, I think I could be wrong, but it could be the other way around. You qualify for Champions League as well, so we got to play in both. Just one of those things that you just, again, you think this may never happen for me. To play for a British professional team in Europe was just an incredible experience. Unfortunate that we didn't qualify for the next rounds, but we were pretty close. You know, we pushed those teams to the edge. Unfortunately, we played against some of the best teams in the whole draw, so that was unfortunate. I think one of the teams actually won the following year that we played against. So, yeah, incredible experience. Very thankful to have been selected on the Leicester Riders team that year to go, and yeah, it was awesome.
People might not know at home watching, but Europe, basketball's huge there, isn't it? And it's in the UK, sometimes you do get caught in a bit of a football bubble where you kind of don't really realise what's going on outside of that. Sure. But can you tell us, I know Spain, it's absolutely massive. What was it like playing over in different countries?
Yeah, so I played in Spain for a season. We went to the cup final. Now, my team was the underdogs in that league. So to make the cup final was like insane. I think we brought 5,000 people, and I'm pretty sure La Roda only has something crazy, something like 18,000 people that live there. You know what I mean? So like something nuts. It's probably a bit more than that, but whatever it is, it's not a lot. And so we went to the cup final, 5,000 of our own. You know, I think it was 10,000 of the other team. Just loud, crazy atmosphere, and that's when I first like got my true experience of like what Spain can be. And that was the second league. So the ACB over there, you're talking packed arenas, and yeah, it's huge, and it's similar around the whole of Europe. Fortunately, with GB, I've got to go around and play in all these different countries. We was in Latvia just recently for the senior GB team. And that was a packed arena with some very loud, energetic Latvian fans. And it was an experience I'll never forget.
How do you find playing in front of a crowd?
I love it. I found that out playing in the BBL, that actually, like, the bigger the crowd, the better I play. I think I just feed off it. I'd say to begin with it was nerves. And then eventually I realised, like, no, I'm quite excited about this. I'm not nervous. I'm quite happy about it. So yeah, the bigger the crowd, the better the performance. What
do you think it is about you that thrives on that energy?
Coming to terms with anxiety, coming to terms with pressure, flipped everything on its head. I think once I learned that you're not supposed to fight that feeling, it became easier. I was always trying to fight the nerves, so I would do things that were easy in the warm up because I didn't want to make a mistake, or I don't know, I keep my head down or whatever. I try to distract myself, and that's worse because you're wasting energy that you need to focus. So once I realized that, I was like, well, the more people, the more energy. This is great, right? And you know, you have a good couple performances in front of big crowds, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, this is me. This is what I do.
It's crazy because it is the same stress response, fight and flight. It's the same adrenaline that's going through your body.
Right,
and it's
okay.
like, I guess once you harness it, I guess you can kind of put it to work to your advantage.
Sure.
Speaking of which, I'd like to take us forward again to what I imagine is your biggest achievement, which was the Commonwealth Games fairly recently. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and obviously winning the gold?
Yeah, crazy journey, man. You know, from getting selected, that was the first part. You know, there's only 4 people on the 3x3 team. So, again, in a sports hall with a bunch of players, hoping that I get selected. I did. We travelled around Europe a little bit to prepare because 3x3 basketball is a shorter, smaller version of 5-on-5. Still as intense. Arguably, some people would say it's more exciting.
You would think it'd be more intense even as well.
It is, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just because it's so condensed. It's half a court. The clock doesn't stop. So in basketball, obviously, for example, if the ball goes out of bounds, the clock stops. You know, there's a breather. Whereas in 3x3, yeah, if the ball goes out of bounds, it starts. But in play, when I score, the other team can grab the ball and go straight away. There's no waiting around. So it's very intense. It's a shorter game, but it's a lot to it.
Do you think that benefits your game, like how you play personally?
Well, I actually feel like I do well in 3x3. I don't want to say I can compare the two and say, oh, I do better in 3x3 than I do in 5-on-5, but both games suit me. So yeah, pretty fortunate really. Being in good shape and being as tall as I am but still agile. I think it was kind of like, yeah, this is the mold, because my whole team, there's a picture of us on the podium and we're all like the same height. So we clearly was like what our coach was looking for. But yeah, incredible experience, man. Like when I think, just thinking about it now, my hairs go off my arms, because when you look in the crowd and it's like, oh, there's my mum, oh, there's my best friend from school, oh, there's someone I've not seen in 10 years, you know what I mean? Like, you're looking around and you're just like surrounded by people that you love and care about, and they've seen your journey. To hold a gold medal in England in front of them is just, man, you can't put that into words, man. Like, it's just, yeah, I'll never forget that ever.
I can only imagine. How does that change your approach to the game and how you feel before it, knowing who's in the crowd and the sort of the size of the occasion?
I don't know. I don't think we planned this, but as a team, we started really like feeding off the crowd a little bit, arguably almost showboating. So like when we won a game, it just happened naturally. Like one would go that way, one would go that way, one would go that way. I'd go this way, because it's like 4 different stands, and we're doing this, we're giving it all this, and of course the crowd's going crazy because we're the English team. So you start feeling like, yeah, they're here for us. And I think we really fed off it as a team, and you know, the louder they were, the better we played. Every game was sold out, and yeah, the more people, it was just better. It didn't give us any anxiety, it just made us play better. So it's pretty cool, really.
Was that the first gold medal for basketball in England? It
was. Well, I think it's the first gold medal for basketball ever.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure there was a bronze. My wife was on the team that won silver in Australia in the last Commonwealth Games. But yeah, that was the first gold.
Wow. And how do you reckon that's changed your profile?
To be honest with you, what's kind of cool about it is because it was in England and it was the Commonwealth Games, it's on BBC, everybody got to see it. And a lot of people that I didn't expect actually came to the games. So if anything, it's just kind of like stamped like my mark in terms of just for everyone rather than just the basketball community. I had a childhood friend bring her whole family, her mum, my kid, to one of my games the other day in Sheffield, and that sparked from seeing me at the Commonwealth Games. She's like, oh, I should go see him play. Like, you know, I've known this guy for like 15, 20 years. So yeah, it was kind of cool to bring so many different people together to experience that achievement.
Presumably it's going to do great things for basketball in the UK, and I know you've just recently signed up with Sports for Champions, so you will be visiting schools and you're going to hopefully see that next generation coming through. What do you think it would have done for you as a young guy to see people from the UK, from England, doing something like that?
It would have connected the dot. And if there's anything I could give back to the community, is connecting the dot. Because for me personally, I was quite naive. When I was playing basketball in the back garden, like I said, there was no connection to anything else other than me just playing in the back garden. No one ever said to me like, hey, you know, like if you want to play basketball as a sport, there's a club over here you can go play. And I don't mean that as in like an offence to my mum, but she just was like, oh, you want to play basketball? Yeah, go ahead. I needed someone to kind of connect those dots for me, and I think that, you know, me going into a school and saying, hey, I got a Commonwealth gold medal. Hey, I've travelled all around the world. I've played in Australia, and this basketball has paid for my whole life since I was 19. They might be like, oh, connection. Okay, yeah, I want to do that. So I'm hoping that I can do that for the next generation.
I think until you've sort of seen somebody from your local area or somebody from the UK, especially in a sport that's so American dominated, it's difficult to imagine yourself in that same position.
For sure.
I know it's not been all smooth sailing for you. You've had a lot of challenges in your career, including quite a lot of serious health trouble. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how it affected sort of your rise through basketball?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge that always kind of sticks in my mind is not being able to play, and that was because of it's called Wolff Parkin White syndrome. So it's a heart defect. I think it's, don't quote me, I think it's 1 in 500,000 people have it. So it causes your heart to palpitate sometimes. So yeah, in 2016 was when I was diagnosed with it, and we went to the hospital. They tried to put me on medication at first, but that didn't work. So I had an operation where they tried to ice the problem. That also didn't work, unfortunately. So a year later, I went back for another operation where they burnt the area, and it worked. Thankfully, I've been able to play ever since without any complications.
So obviously, with it being such a like you only get one heart, and with it being obviously so serious, a lot of people might have gone the other way, maybe pulled back from basketball or just played with their friends every now and then. What is it, do you think, that made you keep wanting to push on?
Well, sport was everything for me. I didn't really do anything else. Maybe played my PlayStation, but that was about it. So when he was kind of alluding to the fact that I wouldn't be able to play, there was no way. I was already in love with basketball at this point, so there was no way that was going to happen. So yeah, again, naive as a kid, I was just like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do the operation. I didn't really think about the fact that I might not wake up from that operation. I just wanted to get it done so I could play. I'm sure my parents were a little bit more anxious than I was, but yeah, it worked out.
It takes so much resilience, I think, to get back out there. Would you say you're a resilient person?
Definitely, 100%. Watching my mum as a single mum, all my years growing up, it taught me how to be resilient, and that in life it's never smooth sailing. So I kind of got used to that. So I think I would definitely consider myself as resilient.
I think moving away at 19 and dedicating your whole life to your sport, it goes hand in hand, doesn't it? Can you tell us a little bit about some of the sacrifices that you've made at a young age, some of the things you might have given up to pursue basketball in the way you have?
I think sometimes you don't realise it's a sacrifice until later on down the line when you kind of look back. I missed my brother's wedding. I missed, one of my uncle's wedding. Numerous weddings, numerous birthdays, almost Christmases. Just a lot of like family moments that I wasn't able to be there for, and it was my own decision as well, which kind of adds to it. It wasn't like my coach said, listen, if you don't come to this game, you're done. It was me saying I have to go to that game. So yeah, a lot of sacrifice.
I'd say, just sorry to cut across you, but just before you beat yourself up too much, I think when I ask people about the sacrifices, they talk about pizza and going out. So I think to say you missed like people's weddings and you wanted to be there for more family events, I'd say I think you should be pretty proud, I think, of the commitment that you made, and I wouldn't worry too much about that.
No, I appreciate that. I definitely had a lot of pizza though, so.
Fair enough. Do you think that being a sports person has made you a better person?
Yeah, 100%. I think being a sports person, playing sport has made me who I am. Learning how to deal with losing, learning how to make friends, learning how to create, relationships with different people. You could be on a team with someone who, if you wasn't playing on that team with that guy, you would never talk to him. You don't like him, you don't like what he's about, but you have to learn how to, create a relationship with someone that, like I said, maybe you don't really like. It's taught me, like we talked about before with the sacrifices, the list goes on. Honestly, it does. And again, it's one of those things that you don't realise till you look back that that's what it taught you. I'm very appreciative of it.
Did you have a favourite sporting hero growing up?
Yeah, Kobe Bryant was huge for me. Simply because of his dedication to it. I think it's something that I aspired to. My parents kind of taught me that as well. So to see him doing it was incredible.
He's an unbelievable role model. Did you have a favourite sporting quote?
Yeah, I actually came up with one before.
Right.
When I was younger. And it's, failure is in your mind, but success is in your heart. Don't ask me where it came from, but somebody asked me to come up with a quote one day. I sat around thinking about it, and it kind of described how I was feeling about sport at the time. It's like, if you lose a game and you consider that a failure, that's in your head, because you've got another 39 games to play. And then success really is in your heart, you know. Like, some people go their whole professional career without winning a trophy, but you couldn't tell them that their career wasn't successful. So the love that they had for the sport, the experiences they had, that's all in their heart. So yeah, it's where it kind of comes from, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's very wise. Do you have any advice for a young person maybe looking to start a career in sport, or maybe even basketball specifically?
Go for it, man. Like, I know it sounds cliche, but you just get stuck in. I think we kind of discussed about it earlier when I was saying I wanted to start a podcast.
Yeah.
It's like, you can find a million reasons not to do it, but you only need one to get involved and to start. So whatever reasons you're thinking of to not do it, that's the ones you ignore, and you just go for it, and who knows what could happen.
I think that's a great place to end it on. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
No, you're more than welcome, and thank you to everyone joining us at home. It's been another episode of the Athlete Podcast, and we'll see you next time. See ya.